All right, so here we have the table summarizes the results from 983 pedestrian deaths that were caused by automobile accidents. So that's a rough situation. So we're talking about pedestrians, like people on foot, walking, not in a car, in other words, and they died in an automobile. So they were hit by a car, basically. 983 cases. So the question is, what's going on in those cases? And it's a study about intoxication. Was it basically alcohol? That's the question. So let's take a look. So group by group here, looking at that carefully, these 56, what's up with them? In those 56 cases, both the driver and the pedestrian were intoxicated. In those 56 cases, both the driver and the pedestrian were intoxicated. So that probably had something to do with the pedestrian getting hit by the car and dying. And then in these 274 cases, the driver was not intoxicated, but the pedestrian was intoxicated. So the person on foot was drunk, but the driver was not. So probably the person on foot just wandered in front of a car because they were drunk. Probably, I guess. We're not for sure, but just general, just trying to stick the information in your mind there. Okay, next, what about these 79 people? Well, in those 79 cases, the driver was intoxicated, but the pedestrian was not. So probably it was the driver's fault then. Probably the driver, being drunk, ran over a pedestrian who was not drunk in those 79 cases. And then finally, in these 574 cases, which is certainly the majority, neither the driver nor the pedestrian was intoxicated. Both were sober, and yet still a pedestrian was hit and killed by a car. Okay, so let's there's 983 total cases that are summarized there. So if one of the pedestrian deaths is randomly selected, so if we grab somebody at random from the table, find the probability that the pedestrian was intoxicated. So the probability that the pedestrian was intoxicated. That's what they're asking. So that's pedestrian intoxicated over total. So how many pedestrian intoxicated situations are there? Well, it's going to be this and that, It's 56 plus 274. Is that making sense? Those are both the pedestrian intoxicated situations. Yes and yes to pedestrian intoxicated. Those are all the cases in which the pedestrian was intoxicated. In some of those cases, the driver was intoxicated also. In some of those cases, the driver was not intoxicated. But in both cases, it was a yes for the pedestrian being intoxicated. So those are both those. And then the total, we already got total right here. The total is the 983, isn't it? That's the total number of cases. So there we go. So just to add those up on your calculator. Let's see here, 56 plus 274. I'm getting 330 over 983. And then you got to divide that. And I'm getting 0.3357. Now, notice how they want a percentage answer, don't they? So you know how to get a percentage answer. We just move the decimal 2 places, right? That's why there's 2 zeros in the percentage symbol, to remind us to move it 2 places. So it's 33.57%. They say 1 decimal place, so I'll say 33.6%. So there it is. So if we were to grab, so basically what we're saying is 33.6% of all those cases, the pedestrian was drunk. The pedestrian was intoxicated. In all the cases where the pedestrian died in an automobile accident, in 33.6% of the cases, the pedestrian was intoxicated. And so if we were to grab one at random, that's the chance if we were to grab one of these cases at random, there'd be that chance, 33.6% chance we'd get one in which the pedestrian was intoxicated. There we go.